IPL is over, the World Test Championship 2023 to 2025 is over, and it's finally time for a fresh season of Test cricket. And we are starting off with two huge cricket superpowers, England and India. Where did we leave off with the two of them? Who can win this next series? And who will be the top performers? All those answers coming to you right after this intro. Let's start with where these teams left off. England, in the 2023 to 2025 World Test Championship cycle, played the most matches, most of them against smaller teams, and still managed to find themselves on the bottom half the table. The two series that they lost were both away in Pakistan and India. Clearly, their main problem is playing spin, and the only tool in the shed that they have against spin is the slog sweep. And seeing as they have to play in their baseball style, there's no defending. If that doesn't work, good luck for England. The main wicket takers against England in the losing series were Ravi Ashwin, Noman Ali, Sajid Khan, and Jasprit Bumrah. 3 out of the 4 of those were spinners, and you can't even count Bumrah because he's just too good and no batter can play him. England also left off with a terrible bowling attack. With Anderson retired, Wokes and Wood not being that fit, there's not a lot of spinners that can play. Outside of England, they have Jack Leach and Tom Hartley, who both spin well, and even in England, they have a pretty good spinners in Rehan Ahmed and Shoaib Bashir. However, their main problem is their pace attack in England. Against both the Windies and the Lankans, they failed to make a breakthrough multiple times, which allowed the Lankans or the Windies to get a lead in the game, which was subsequently crushed by England's batting on the flatter and more pace-favoring conditions at home. But nonetheless, the point still stands. Other than Atkinson and Wokes, there's not been much brilliance in the pace department for the side. Brandon Cars was solid at the T20 internationals in India and the tests in New Zealand, but again, still not much for the bowling. There's no bowler experienced enough to lead the side with the new ball. Wokes is likely the best one to choose, but the point still stands. England will likely want to use 4 frontline pacers, but they don't have the ability to do that. Ollie Stone and Josh Hull have shown signs of brilliance, but really haven't impressed much, plus they're injured. And with Atkinson ruled out for the first test, the signs don't look great for England. They could probably be good for the first 30 overs, but looking at India's lower order and how they performed in the warm-up match, they might want to rethink their spin attack. The middle order has been a tough nut to crack for England, and most teams, number 5 and number 6, are putting up good stands against them, so the spin attack or someone with the old ball will have to step up. But as of now, I don't see much happening, especially without Gus Atkinson. India started off their 2023 cycle well, winning in the Windies and drawing in South Africa, and found success with the replacements of Rahane and Pujara. However, that was before the 3-match test series against New Zealand. India needed to win 3 matches in 8 matches to qualify for the World Test Championship final, and at that point, India hadn't lost a home series in 10 years. The New Zealand series changed all of that. Bumrah struggled to pick wickets because of the Kiwis' traditionally low batting stance, meaning that the bowling wasn't great. Jadeja and Sundar both had solid performances with the ball, but still nothing could stop New Zealand. The batting lineup was even worse. Kohli hasn't been in great form since 2020, and we all know that, and the Kiwi bowlers made him look like a walking wicket. Rohit was in good form in Test cricket since 2021, but he was never all that consistent with it. He had a good first half of 2024 against England, but in the Tests against New Zealand, he was just another walking wicket. Everyone except Sundar, Pant, and Jadeja had a terrible time against the Kiwis. India had to win 3 tests in 5 matches in Australia to qualify for the final, which, isn't possible. However, their series against Australia wasn't totally one-sided. In Perth, they beat Australia fairly handily, and they still couldn't qualify. They did draw a match at the Gamba, which was pretty good, and they even got some sparks of brightness, like Nitish Kumar Reddy's century, but, they still couldn't qualify. The real problem with India, their batting order is unstable. The captaincy, albeit, was not up to the mark in the Australia or the New Zealand series. The bowling is solid, however, with Ashwin retiring, it does seem a little inexperienced. The pace attack looks solid. Prasidh had good performances in the Border Gavaskar Trophy. Shardul and Siraj have done good in England before. Akashdeep has definitely bowled well, but gets unlucky when it comes to actually picking the wickets up. Arshdeep is on Test debut, and honestly, it's surprising it took them this long. He's one of the best new ball bowlers in the country. Even though he averages 30 in the first-class format, he's definitely improved himself, and English conditions really help that out. Harshit Rana has performed in a couple of matches in Australia. However, I don't think these conditions or red ball cricket in general suits him. He's purely a T20 bowler, and I think that's what suits him best. I will go more in depth for this pace attack later in the video. Now let's talk about the squad. England has their regular test squad, excluding players like Atkinson, Ollie Stone, and Josh Hull, and Mark Wood, because they're all injured. Some standard players are there, like Root, Pope, Stokes, who isn't in the best form. Ben Stokes is not in the best form, so his success in this series is pretty important. Ben Duckett, Chris Wokes, and Jamie Smith. Atkinson, Wood, Stone, and Hull are all injured, as I said, so they might come back in the next test matches, but for the purposes of the series, I will assume that Atkinson and Wood will be fine by the third test at the latest. Ollie Stone and Josh Hull really don't make a difference in my opinion, so I'm not going to talk about them. Josh Tongue and Sam Cook are very good bowlers. Josh Tongue is a little bit on the slower side, but he utilizes his angles very well, and he's able to bowl to the field really well. He's a smart bowler, and that will definitely be useful against the inexperienced Indian batting lineup. Sam Cook is another prolific wicket taker in first-class cricket for some time now, and he's finally been given another test match. He's only played one against Zimbabwe, where he didn't do that great, but he averages 20 in the first-class format. Definitely a good bowler to have on the side. He gets good enough swing and will be useful with Gus Atkinson gone, and also let's talk about Shoaib Bashir. He's a good bowler to have on the side as well. He's performed well in England and well against India last year. England have been missing a good spinner since Swan, and Bashir looks like he could be that Graham Swan. England has good all-rounders on their side. Jacob Bethel comes into the squad looking like a bright youngster for the team. Bryden Cars has done well in the past, like I said, and he's definitely a good replacement for Chris Wokes in the future, who is rather injury-prone, and he's way older now. Jamie Overton doesn't fit into the side as much, in my opinion. They already have 5 frontline bowlers, 3 part-timers in Bethel, Root, and Stokes. And I would prefer more batting depth than more bowling depth, considering that the top 9 are already fixed. He played well in his only test against New Zealand with the bat. However, he averages 22 with the bat and 31 with the ball in first class. I would prefer someone like Tom Benton or Emilio Gay, who could come in as a replacement in case Jamie Smith gets injured, or even someone like Joe Root gets injured. There are more versatile players than Jamie Overton. Anyway, he's not going to get playtime. So let's talk about Zach Crawley. Zach Crawley has been a mainstay in the England squad for like 5 years at this point. He's definitely shown potential, and I do think he's genuinely a player with talent, but he does have those kind of off seasons, which isn't ideal. He's not as consistent as he can be. I genuinely think that sticking with him will be important to his development as a cricketer and a batter, but sometimes his technique itself is off against the new ball. However, if he does well this series, he's definitely going to be a prominent face in the future. That's all for England squad. Actually, wait, no. I should probably talk about the playing 11. The playing 11 that England already released was the exact same playing 11 that I would go for. So thanks for making my job easy, ECB. Zach Crawley, Ben Duckett, Ollie Pope, Joe Root, Harry Brook, Ben Stokes as the captain, Jamie Smith as their wicketkeeper, Chris Wokes, Bryden Cars, Josh Tongue, Shoaib Bashir will be my 11 for the entire series, with Atkinson coming in for Tongue if he is better. If not, and Tongue doesn't perform well, Sam Cook can come in. For Manchester, I would go with another all-rounder instead of Pope, so Bethel in for the Manchester test. Now let's talk about India squad. India squad is very, 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 very different from last time they toured England. For one, Rohit and Kohli have retired from Test cricket. I do think at least Kohli could have gotten a farewell, but let's get back to the main point. The squad looks young, but with Gill as captain, I'm not sure about how well that will work. I always knew that the captaincy would go to Gill at some point, but come on, there's Jadeja right there. He's been a mainstay in the squad for 12 years? 11 years? Gill has had success at the IPL though, and I do feel like he is a leader. It's just a little too early for him. He's only 25. The average age of the squad is 27, which is a bit misleading considering that Karan Nair, Shardul Thakur, Abhimanyu Ishwaran, Akash, and Prasidh have played very few tests. I mean, actually, Sai Sudarshan hasn't played a test either. Well, Abhimanyu Ishwaran is 29 years old and he hasn't played a single test. So, yeah. So what I'm saying is the squad is young and inexperienced as hell. This isn't ideal for an away series. The batting is also very undecided, and so is the bowling to some extent. Let's just talk about it, shall we? Obviously, we're not talking about Bumrah, Pant, Jaiswal, Kuldeep. He's a pretty good test spinner. just Sundar, Jadeja, Nitish, I don't really have anything to say about them. So I still have to talk about a lot of players. So let's just get right into it. I think I talked about Akash and Arshdeep to a good enough extent in the intro. So let's talk about Harshit. Harshit does not hit the deck hard enough. That's not to say he's a bad bowler. I think he's definitely a good white ball bowler, but in tests, that's not ideal, especially in pace conditions like England. That's not ideal. Someone like Anshul hits the deck harder and also gets more movement, something that will be helpful in England. But Anshul's not in the squad. He has had success in first-class cricket though, which I think may help out. I do think he could be hard to read for the English batters, so maybe they could play him a little. I'm not sure. It would be a weird pick instead of the pace quartet that I thought of. If Gill sets good enough plans, then maybe Harshit could be an actual good bowler in England. But for now, I don't think he's in contention to play in the playing 11. Siraj is coming into the side for the first time after the BGT. He did extremely well for Gujarat with the new ball, and that's something he's likely going to have to replicate against England, and something he's likely going to do against England. England's conditions definitely suit Siraj's bowling, and even though he averages 34 in England, he's come back as a more experienced player and will definitely have a huge impact for India. Along with Bumrah and Thakur, it's going to be pretty difficult for England's batting. Speaking of Shardul, he's finally back in the side. He's always been a great player in Test cricket and in first-class cricket as well, and he was only dropped because he's not as consistent as you would want an all-rounder to be. But he knows the English conditions well and provides a lot of depth for the batting, so his spot is genuinely justified. Prasidh is a good first-class bowler. His regular way of bowling and his physical build really permits him to be a great Test bowler. However, he's really dependent on the captaincy as well. With a captain who doesn't motivate bowlers or plan well enough for the bowlers, he's not the best. But he did well for Gujarat under Shubman Gill, so I believe he can replicate it again against England. So the fast bowlers look good, and there is a really obvious pace quartet that I would use. The batting is where the squad starts to fail. The top 7 isn't decided. Gill is likely still figuring out where to bat. On one hand, he's batted at number 3 ever since dropping the opening spot. But on the other hand, there isn't a single obvious number 4 batter. Gill also averages 35 in the format and hasn't really been good against pace, especially in overseas conditions, and also in red ball cricket in the last 2 years. This series will definitely be a testing series for him. He deserves to be in the playing 11, but who knows where he's going to play. Coronaire is coming back into the side after 8 years, and I was surprised that this actually happened. He's 33 years old and wouldn't have that long of a career after this, but he's been in the form of his life. He averages 49.8 in the first class format and did have a good season with Northamptonshire in England, demonstrating that he knows the English conditions well. But the question is where he's going to play. Again, there's competitions for the 3, 4, and 5 spot for India. Sai Sudarshan gets into the squad off of a fantastic IPL season, but he hasn't been a first-class great. He averages around 40 in first-class cricket, but has had good performances against the Australia A team, but didn't get a chance against England. He can definitely play Test cricket, but again, the number 3, 4, and 5 spots are all hard spots to get into, so he has to prove himself in the first chance he gets in the Test format. KL Rahul averages less than Gill in the Test format, however, he's really good at overseas conditions. This guy is so confusing in the Test format, it's like he changes himself every time he comes out to play in Test cricket, kind of like Aiden Markram does. It's evident that he could be a great batter in Tests, he's just not consistent enough to actually do something. Obviously, the other option is to open with Abhimanyu Ishwaran, but KL's best spot is the opening spot. He averages 40 in that position, so he walks it to the side either way. I would love to see Aryan Gial getting more chances. He's a really underrated player who's performed well in the domestic circuit. LSG picked him up in IPL, but he didn't get to play a single match. I think he should be playing. With Jaiswal, he would be amazing. Dhruv Jurel would walk into any Indian Test side if Rishabh Pant didn't exist. It's not worth it to keep Dhruv Jurel as a specialist batter. It's like keeping MS Dhoni as a specialist batter, in my opinion. And that's everything for India's squad. It's not a great batting lineup, but the pace attack looks really good. Not something that I thought I would ever say for any Indian team. Anyway, the playing 11 I would go for is KL Rahul and Yashasvi Jaiswal opening the batting, Sai Sudarshan at 3, Shubman Gill at 4, Karan Nair at 5, Rishabh Pant at 6, Ravi Jadeja at 7, I was personally stuck on selecting between Jaddu and Sundar, but for the first games, I would prefer an experienced all-rounder, and if he does become a burden on the team, Sundar can fit in pretty quickly. Nitish Kumar Reddy can also come into the side, but you'd have to give up one of your frontline pacers for a spinner, and that means you'd have to take in Kuldeep Yadav, which he's a good test player, but I would rather have a frontline pacer. Shardul Thakur, he will bat at 8, and he can act as a frontline pacer, and for the pitches, the test pitches look really grassy, so I would prefer a frontliner instead of Nitish Kumar Reddy. Jasprit Bumrah at 9, Siraj at 10, and Prasidh Krishna to finish it. And for the last part of the video, who will be the best performers? My highest run scorer for England will be Joe Root. He's in superb form. He literally averages 58 against India. My highest run scorer for India will be Rishabh Pant. He scored 100 in his last IPL games, showing good signs for the upcoming England series. And with this top order lineup, probably not scoring any runs, he's going to be their best batter. And Joe Root will probably be the highest overall run scorer. My highest wicket taker for England will be Bryden Cars. I think he'll be really hard for India to handle, and he'll work really hard this series, and he's going to be a top performer for England in the future as well. For India, it's going to be Bumrah. I don't even have to explain myself. The player of the tournament will be Bryden Cars. I haven't talked about him much. He's a great youngster, and he will show up for England this series. England will probably win at Lord's, Leeds, and the Oval, with India winning in Manchester and drawing in Birmingham. That's it for now. England will win 3-1 in my opinion. Tune in next week for hopefully something good. I don't even know what I'm doing. Bye.